Hey everyone, James from TeaDB here, bringing you another ripe Inbetweenisode. Today I am brewing another tea, just like the Golden Needle White Lotus that I sort of took out from the back of my my ripe cabinet. So again, doing nothing special with these, no humidification or anything. It's just kind of stored in a space with a bunch of other ripe pu'erh. I've had it stored this way, I guess, for like 7 years now. So this is one of the very early cakes we bought. Dayi and I actually bought this cake for our office way back when in 2013 when we actually had an office, and we drank it a bit there. And then eventually we shut down our office and we split up the tea, and I got this one. So definitely actually one of my favorites back then, and unlike the Golden Needle White Lotus, I continue to really like this tea ever since I brought it out of the back storage. I think it's gotten even better since then. And yeah, going to talk about it. So it's the 2005 Dayi Baji Pubing. Ba means 8. So it's a grade 8 leaf blend. The grades usually go from 0 to 9. It's not in terms of quality, it's more in terms of the leaf size. So the 8 here would mean that we're talking about a larger leaf blend. And I think this was the initial production, and I did do a little bit of research before we started this, and I saw that Scott does sell a 2016 version of this tea as well. But the 2005 that I'm drinking now is definitely no longer available, and it was actually quite expensive at the time that we bought it. I think it was around $100, so pretty expensive ripe cake from the get-go, especially considering the time. And the profile is dramatically different from the two Dayi teas that I brought on recently. No surprise there, as the leaf grade is just kind of just on the other side of the spectrum. It's a much fuller bodied experience. It's softer. It's still woody, but the woodiness is a little different. It doesn't have that sort of like thinner, really viscous textural experience that you have. It's more round. It's softer. Scott used camphorous in his description of 2016. I could agree with that a bit. Definitely sort of in that range. The color it brews kind of ranges from a dark red to a color darker, sort of like this. And the storage of it, as you might expect, has been pretty dry. It was stored in Kunming, I think, to start, and then I think it spent some time in Portland storage and Scott storage, and then in Seattle since then. And I think actually the tea has just improved considerably. I saw in Scott's description of the 2016 version that it was a lighter fermented recipe. That's certainly quite possible because we never had this tea young. It's hard to say if it had raw notes to start with, but and the leaves at this point are pretty darn darkened. They're black, basically. The tea definitely doesn't have the raw edge now, but that might be part of the reason that the tea has just continued to improve a bit, is that the fermentation was not super heavy, so it hasn't just been sort of like stagnant and hovering around the same sort of level. It's gotten richer and rounder and sort of mellowed out a bit as it's gotten older. A possibility, at least. The Golden Needle White Lotus, if you remember, it was one of my favorite ripe cakes to start with, and it sort of fell a little bit in my memory. I still like the tea, but definitely not my favorite now. This tea, I also really like to start, but I actually think I like it even more now. So kind of shows you that the two different trajectories that something can go, and I think part of it's probably my memory of it, memory maybe being a little overinflated for the Golden Needle. But part of it could also just be sort of the natural aging of the tea and certain conditions being a little bit, certain processing or conditions being more sort of conducive to improve over time. So here is my freshly made steep. Cheers, guys. Really rich, still kind of, it's a little creamy actually, but creamy in a different way. Good body, just a really, really enjoyable tea. I am going to give this tea a 7.3 rating. The 2016 version I'm actually curious to try, especially now I haven't had it. It's considerably cheaper, $28. So if it's even 80% of this tea, which I guess we should be a little bit skeptical of just because there's a pretty big price disparity between the two, then I think it'd be well worth it. Just because this tea, when I had it 7 or 8 years aged, really good. Now that's 15 years aged, even better. And I'm going to be legitimately a little bummed out when I finish this cake, and I'm getting pretty close to it as well. The lighter steeps are good, a little bit more in that grainier, oatier realm. The stronger steeps here are the ones where I brew it for a little longer and we get a little darker color. I think I like those a little bit more. This tea seems like a difficult one to overbrew. If you just go longer, you're just going to get a richer body, and there's not too much of a drawback of doing it. So yeah, that just about concludes this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. Let me know what sort of in-between-isodes you'd like to see next. So again, a 7.3 rating for this really pleasant Dayi tea. I think it's probably my favorite Dayi tea that I brought on to an in-between-isode so far. So thank you all for... Well, no, that's wrong. The Dayi Anqiang Shu from Sha was better. But this one is also very good. So, quick correction there. But thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all next time. Cheers.